Awesome.
Are we on?
Yes.
Okay. I still can't tell that we're on, so I will talk and go blind until until I can actually see. Welcome everybody to the midweek version of the Faika podcast. I'm your host Carl. Naki is your host on Sunday, host in the midweek afternoon. Naki.
Hey, hello.
And our guest of honor today, somebody who's helped us in so many different ways.
So many
different ways, and we'll talk about. That's one of the things that I'm most excited to talk about, of course, because I'm personalizing. You know, how did I gain? And I've gained so much from our time with him. Is Reverend Tautalaaso Fa'aleava. Good morning. I mean, good afternoon, Reverend.
Yeah, good afternoon.
Hey.
We're so used to doing the. We're so used to doing the mornings on Sundays that everything is good morning, everybody. Good morning, everybody. But we actually get more views sometimes with our midweek. So
yes.
Welcome,
morning
Pastor.
Somewhere. Yeah. Well, okay.
Yeah.
So I want to read through some of the things that you've done in your. We ask for a short bio from all of our guests, and yours reads, and you did keep it short because some people write books.
Oh my gosh.
The things that you put in here are impressive. So, a graduate of Malua Theological College in Bolu, Samoa. Reverend Fa'aleava is ministered in Hawaii, Jamaica, Auckland, New Zealand, and our very own San Francisco, California. He's been a Samoan language consultant for the Peace Corps in Samoa and recently for Stanford University. I definitely want to talk about that today. He's also a Samoan language interpreter for the Executive Office of Immigration Reform. We've been honored to meet Reverend Fa'aleava's family. He's married to the beautiful Samoa, Elizabeth Fa'aleava, and she can do it all. She's funny. We got to spend time with her in a language class. Great cook. So many great things that your family does. 3 grown-up children: Mel Fa'aleava, Toifuiono Fa'aleava Sanchez, and the newly accredited Dr. Fa'afetai Fa'aleava. Congratulations to Tai. So that is an impressive lineup of in a bio that he put together in just very short sentences. I'm sure it could have went on a lot longer. So welcome. And we just wanted to check in. There's been such a big, it's been such a huge interest, your language and culture class last year. Where I think that it was as much the culture. I mean, the language, we've talked about how much the language means to us as a culture and as a community, but I think it was the second hour that a lot of people have books, a lot of people have been in classes, a lot of people have tried to learn the language, but the pieces in that second hour in the two different classes that you ran last year, the culture hour, that was where I heard a lot of just a lot of knowledge was passed that people were like, oh, I heard this a lot in class, and Naki probably can speak to it too. We heard a lot of, oh, I didn't know why they did that, or, oh, I didn't know that was what they meant when they said that. I think a lot of things that the Samoan people have done was explained and really brought to light in that second hour. What was your thought process in creating the classes where we met you last year?
Hey, good question. I just wanted to ask that there's another member of the family, Desmond Sanchez.
Oh.
What was my thought process in the beginning of the class? Actually, I wanted to help the church as children, and also, just to build a Samoan, not only cultural but language basis, so that it would help them with their White Sunday memory verse, so that they would understand what they're trying to say. And then we decided, well, why not open it up to the community since it's a big hall and we have a big venue. And so we did. And the community came in, and that was fun. It was fun.
Yeah, it was
So that
fun.
was the whole process, because we opened it up to the community thinking if the young ones here need it, then I'm sure that there's a lot of people out there who need it too.
Mm.
And that
Yeah, because people showed up from Sacramento. I mean, not only Carl, but a lot of people were from Fairfield, more people from Sacramento. I mean, it just showed how hungry people were to learn the language and to learn the culture.
Yeah.
Culture. Pastor, is there anything that you didn't put in or we didn't put in the bio that besides Des, hey Des, is there anything that you want to tell us about your travels, or did we leave anything anywhere out, besides Jamaica? I'm interested about Jamaica because I've never been and I've only heard good stories about it, but are there a lot of Pacific Islanders in Jamaica, or were you serving a different community?
We were in the reality community, because when we talk about Jamaica, we talk about the tourist areas, but we worked with the communities, where people struggle, and there are also people who are really well off that we did work with. It's very much like Samoa, culture-wise. I mean, not culture-wise, the climate, the island, the food, and that. But culture is still similar in some ways and not in others. All in all, yeah, it's a nice place. It's beautiful people. The one thing that I really admire about the Jamaican people, it's considered rude if you meet someone and not say hi, even if you don't know that person. So an adult would pass a little kid who's playing with something and not paying attention to the adult. The adult would stop and yell at the kid for not addressing him or her. And if you walk into a waiting area, like a doctor's office is that, you say hi to everyone who's there. So that's something beautiful I came with.
That's like our culture as well, right?
Yes,
Pastor,
yes.
when you walk into a room full of elders for Pacific Islanders, you have to greet everyone.
Yeah, and the Samoan, we have to do the Fakulima, which is something different. But Jamaica is different. It's like you have to, and since it's become normal to them, it's just so sweet. Because in our culture, adults greet adults.
Yeah.
And the Jamaican culture, adults greet kids, kids greet adults, and
everyone.
Everyone. That makes
everyone.
it fun for me. As for the bio, I think that was it. That's everything there is about me. Just 2 paragraphs.
We'll try to get a little more.
No, I don't think so. We're gonna dig it out now.
So how long were you in Jamaica?
5 years.
5 years.
5 years.
Wow.
5 years, yes.
What was the and I've heard this, I've never been to Jamaica, but I have friends that have been, and one of the things they talked about was the disparity between the haves and the have-nots. What is considered poverty level in the United States is nowhere near what's considered poverty level in Trenchtown or in Jamaica. Did you notice striking differences in their society and what a poverty level would be versus America?
Well, the difference is, I think in America you have a social welfare system, food stamps and that. In Jamaica, there is nothing. But the good thing about Jamaica, almost everyone, well, except for those in the city, but a lot of people work the land. A lot of people work the land, and they value anything that, like the tiny fruits and all the little fruits, anything edible. They value everything, unlike, with the Samoan culture, there are things that we don't really give a whaisea, but everything is sort of, they give the whaisea everything that they can find that it's edible.
Yeah.
So that's, but the inner cities, I don't see the difference, except that, here we can get money, but over there, some live in boxes. It's just different. And the violence in some areas, it's just like here, but it's like that. There are areas where it's similar, and then there are areas where the difference is so big between here and over there. And the haves and the have-nots, well, there are areas in some communities where they both live together. And in the churches that I was privileged enough to pastor in, those people were mixed in the congregation. So the haves and the have-nots do come in, and there's a mutual respect for them. But I think there's a little difference between people who don't go to church.
Yeah.
I'm not really versed in that area since I never ventured out into that world. So I sort of captured myself within the church environment.
With that lack of a social safety net, like the difference between here and Jamaica, did the church play a different role with the community because of the lack of welfare and those kind of programs, or was it pretty much the same role it plays here in the community?
Oh, the church helps. We do handouts and things like that. And with the congregation that I was in, we were very much active in the program called Food for the Poor. Mm-hmm. And so we get bags of rice. I think they all came from the States. And then we will just sort of divide them up into little bags and go hand them out. And, they have places to meet us. And sometimes we get there, some other ministry had left. So they're standing there with their bags and they're ready for a double portion. But the church did a lot to help the people. Hands-on.
That's awesome. Yeah, your classes that we started, we were talking about the classes that you were teaching. We went to the first class and we were on our way. We were headed to Samoa and American Samoa. And so Carl was trying to get the language, and I was too. I was trying to get, we were trying to, wanting to communicate as little as possible, but just trying to, hey, how are you? If we could get that out, we're so happy. So we went to class and we learned how to have casual conversation. That was the first class that we went to, and it taught us how to have casual conversation with someone that we ran into. So when we went to Samoa, we used what you taught us every day. Every day, somebody, we got to say, oh, my oi, I mean, I had that down. You would have been so proud. But one of the things, learning, so my family is now trying to learn the language too. And one of the things that really, a light bulb went off in my head, and I always tell everybody that, is you said that the vowels are king. And that you have to pronounce every single letter when you're reading, like the E and the A, and some people like seat. the A is silent, but in the Samoan language,
Right.
you have to pronounce every single letter. So that taught me in how to, in reading, and then it also helped me to understand the language. So I'm grateful for that. And I loved your class. So we look forward to it. We've just been crazy busy. And you too have been crazy busy. You're now
Yeah.
working for Stanford University. Can
Yes.
you tell us how that came about? And that's so awesome.
Let's see, a divine hand.
Truly.
Someone forwarded me, I think it was Leah. She forwarded me the what is it called again? The advertisement for a language consultant. And she forwarded to me and she said, "You're the perfect candidate for this job."
Yeah.
And then it was echoed by someone else close to her and close to me. And then I ended up putting in and went in for an interview. Got the interview with the professor. I did not know that she's a professor, linguistic professor. So she asked me questions in Samoan, how to interpret this and this and this. Funny thing is, she already knew. I sort of knew that because when I gave the interpretation, she was writing it down. You know, she didn't ask me to spell it.
How do you spell it?
And it gives it away.
She was just writing it down and nodded her head. And then she says, "Okay, so what's all in this sentence?" You know, well, to Samoa, I think my own belief is that that's the verb to be. And she smiled. And when she smiled, I thought, I got it.
Definitely got it. Definitely.
But you know, I've also learned, if I may say this, because sometimes, you know, with my own life as a pastor, God talks to me in funny ways, right? So that morning before I went for the interview, I grabbed a cup from the shelf, had a coffee, left it on the counter, and I left. And then when I came back, you know, I'm kind of praying person. I just asked the Lord, you know, is this your will? And I had this urge to, in my heart, like, look at the cup you drank from. And the cup said Stanford on it.
Wow. Yeah, that was the sign.
Yeah.
And then, you know, Elizabeth Samoa came home from school that day and she said, "We had a sub that came in today and he was wearing a Stanford t-shirt."
All the signs were there.
All the time. There were 3 signs. So I thought, okay, I got it. So I just waited for the text that, because after my interview, the professor said, "I got one more person and then I'll let you know." So that evening, I got the text and yeah.
Oh, you got the text that
already
the same day?
I got the text.
Yeah, that evening.
And I felt like replying, I already knew. But
Right.
Yeah.
So what's the difference? You were teaching linguists, not like people trying necessarily to learn the language, but they were more from a linguist's perspective, correct?
Yes, it's a linguist perspective. They try to they analyze the language. You know, they had certain theories about the Samoan language, so the students would pursue that theory, and they would ask me questions concerning their theory that could either confirm or dispel their theory. So that was the kind of work we did, and it was a lot of fun because each student approached the language from a different angle, and that sort of widened my perspective, and it was good. The lingo, I was a bit confused because they spoke a language that is not common to my ears, you know, like ergatives and transitive and non-transitive and all those terms. And they when they talk, among themselves, I said, oh wow. So eventually I got to learn the lingo, so I sort of understanding it better. But that's the Stanford. I'm still working. The professor got so interested in the Samoan language that she wants to continue working with me. And this time it's her. She's studying the language now.
How did she end up? I'm assuming she's not Samoan, so how did she end up speaking the language or learning it?
Well, she's linguistic. I didn't ask her that, but yeah. But there's a lot of writings. Other professors have written about the Samoan language.
Mm.
Some people even wrote their, thesis on the Samoan language, and there's a lot of those writings. And we went through some of those writings. But the professor, I think she's Russian, but she wants to join the Samoan class. So I told her, okay, I'll let you know. Yeah. But I'll continue with Stanford, working with the professor. Yeah.
Intimidating at all to work with a Stanford linguist, or since you're the one, with the deficit in knowledge that you're teaching her, was that the dynamic there at all challenging?
Not really. No, it was not intimidating at all. I don't know. I just had fun. I had fun with them. The students wrote to me and thanked me after the last quarter. We finished with the students, and most of them said, thank you. The professor said that I'm the best they could have had. So
That's awesome.
I thought, yeah, of course you got the best. No, I didn't.
Of course you're the best. What are they crazy?
But they're so grateful. Yeah.
That's awesome. I think that's a great opportunity. I think you're the right person in the right spot at the right time. There's a Pops Vegas on who's saying Malo la sunga ale Faika Tautalaaso. Mea e sili o lo'o manuia o lua malefaletua alofa atu Pops Vegas.
Hey, thank you, Pop Vegas.
I hit all the vowels. Did you notice that? I know. I'm not sure if you noticed. I hit all the vowels.
I'm smiling here. Like, wow.
Every time we're on a show in the morning, there will be a long name that Naki's saying good morning to. And if it's a long name and I can see where she's sounding it out, I know what's coming next. I got all the vowels. I hit all the vowels.
Thanks to Tama, I hit all the vowels.
Every vowel is a king and needs to be acknowledged.
That was really a little freeing for me because it made things less intimidating when I learned to read English as a kid. I was taught. It wasn't, I don't know what they call, like hooked on or word recognition. It wasn't that. It was phonetics. So you sounded out every syllable. And then I don't know why it didn't dawn on me until your class when you said that. And then I started looking at words and not being as intimidated by a long word and just try to sound it out. And it made things less intimidating and able to be confident that an E makes this sound, an I makes this sound. It's not, like Naki said, there's not a silent vowel. There's not, there's no those exception things and pronunciations. It was comforting to hear that.
No diphthongs.
Yeah, no diphthongs. I was going to say, Naki got, what was the culture class? I remember coming out of the culture class, Naki, there was a piece that you were really looking forward to, and I think it was the CE. I'm not sure, but you had asked, because you weren't going to be there, and you said, can you record it on your phone? Because I don't know, for whatever reason, you weren't going to be able to make that class, and I know that was a big piece of it, and then we didn't repeat it, but we did go over a piece of it later, and I saw you very interested in that. Was there specifically a piece of that, Naki, or why were you so interested in the CE portion of it?
Well, because it's always at every Fa'aleava, they always do a CE or kaiasua, and I see the box, with the chicken and the Coke and the dollar. And what I loved is that you broke down what every piece that goes out, what it means, when it should go out, and I always see, I love that when we see the boys come to bring the pusa, they always tap the ground. And then I'm like, why do they do that? And I love that you explain that. And so I was very interested because I always see, what does the chicken represent? What does the crackers represent? What does it all mean? And I just love that the culture part of the classes that you taught us every single part and what it meant and why. So that I thank you for that, because it was a big part. A lot of people didn't know in the class. So when you broke it down, we were like, oh, okay, it made sense. So for years and, over 40 years, I'm seeing this whole thing go down and didn't understand what it was all about. But until your class.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah, it was a big part. And and I have my girls do it, and I did it when I was their age, and just doing it, not understanding what I was doing. So that was a big part of it. I have Lena Manulelua says malo uncle. Auntie Chris, Leah's mom says malo. Evai Della Fossi. Hi, Pastor Tautalaaso. Quingy and Frank Mulio, and Faith Dubon sends their regards. Lena Malia Tulua, Afi and Tawanga Elisaya. Hi, everybody.
Hello, everyone.
So your language class is huge. Is there any part of the class or that you're more excited about than the other? Like we're excited about the whole thing, but is there one that you're more drawn to than the other when you were teaching that class?
No, not really.
The whole thing.
I think the whole thing is the same. But what excites me most is when people have questions, because questions means that they've hit a hurdle and they need to understand and unravel the hurdle. So, and that I really enjoy it when they ask questions. So I know exactly, what is needed. And because sometimes I'm teaching and I'm not sure if do they need this stuff or, but you reflecting on the SUA teaching and that, because from where I am, it's like that's common. So when it's common to me, it's easy to assume that it's common to everyone else. So when someone asks a question, then that sort of puts it into perspective for me, how to approach a topic and a certain aspect of the culture. The language is big. We're only scratching the surface. I really want to go into, but then I don't want to be too technical, because after all, it'll be nice to speak like how we did or amai oe, manuia whawhetai. Those are the kinds of things that we need to be able to speak, and then to get into a little bit deeper in the language. I think that's when we'll be able to. I mean, we will have to be technical. Be technical to get into that next stage. But it'll be good. It'll be good to get there, and then get past that, and then go into the oratory language and that. So
that also was a big key for me, because when we go to these fa'aleavas, the Matai gets up and speaks long, like for 10 minutes, right? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I don't understand. And then I asked my husband, I said, what are they saying? And he says, oh, they're saying welcome. And I go, well, welcome is one word. And then you explain, oh, you know, the skies have opened up because of they're doing that, you know, they're making the skies have opened up and the clouds have parted because you are here. And you explained that to me and I was like, no wonder it takes 15 minutes just to say welcome. So
Yeah.
that was huge for me too, because we all sit through it and are just, I don't know what they're saying. That was another light bulb for me too.
The birds are singing.
Yeah.
The river has started flowing. It's kind of
Yes,
symbolic like that, but it's simply
very
saying
symbolic. But I
welcome.
love that. I love that a light bulb went up off for me for that too, and I loved it. Then I was like, okay, yes, I get it now. Because when I asked him, he's like, they're just saying welcome. I was like, yeah, I don't understand. I don't understand.
Yeah.
You got my
Ono
go
is saying hi, Dad.
Oh.
Hey, Ono girl.
Oh, shoot.
I remember the first day of class, in your first class last year, I was already nervous enough, and we got in there, and I think we started class, and you said the Lord's Prayer, and then like, I don't know, 5 minutes into class, people were standing up and saying Talofa to the class, and then the class was answering back, and I think I was like the seventh person to go, and I was thinking, oh my gosh, like we're 5 minutes in the class, and we're all going to be speaking Samoan, and it was nerve wracking. But I think it was really well done because it was, you know, it was like everybody can be uncomfortable, but you know, we're going to speak Samoan, and it was so quick and so right off the bat that it really set the tone. For me, it was like, okay, take a deep breath. We're going to do this every week. We're going to, you know, but that was I would like that touch that we spoke Samoan, you know, in the first class, and not just in the first class, but within the first 10 minutes, we were speaking to the class, and the class was speaking back to us. So at that whole being uncomfortable and learning was a big piece. What was it always, thinking about how you put the class together? Was it always going to be a language and culture class, or did the culture become a piece that you added on when you were planning it secondarily, or was there always going to be two pieces like that?
Well, it started. It started with a youth group, and the second hour was Bible study. So we started with language, and then the second hour was Bible study, and then when we opened it to the community, the second hour became culture. It's because I've seen the need to understand our culture. Because when we do understand our culture, we read the Bible and we'll understand it too. They're very similar in many ways. So to understand the Bible better, you got to understand our culture. It's sort of interpreted that way. And we also understand the response of our people to the teaching and the activities of the church.
Did the response from the community surprise you? How responsive and I mean, there were nights there were 50 people in the room. Did the overwhelming response from the community surprise you, or did you kind of expect that it would be that volume?
I didn't really have any expectation. I sort of opened it and wait. So, when it turned up in big numbers, okay, I would have gotten nervous if there wasn't enough seats. But there was a lot of seats. So, yeah, I didn't. I think, when they come in big numbers and when they come in small numbers, it's still very good. At least because, I just want to share what I have and go to the grave empty.
Well put.
Right. Do you have any hobbies, Pastor? Like your brother golfs. Do you golf, or is there any extracurricular activity that you do besides Stanford and language class, taking care of the world.
I play net, what do you call it? Netflix.
Huh?
I love Netflix.
So I play that a lot, and yeah. And the other one, what do you call it? The
I'm a professional at those too.
Me
yeah,
too.
I just like watching movies and getting quotes from the movies, and I do a little project here and there, fixing a light bulb or power outlet or a faucet.
Mm.
The handyman in the house.
I love gardening too. So yeah,
Oh,
Ah,
nice. There you go.
I love gardening. So
every
yeah, San Francisco was hot because the plants could be growing nicely, and then one chilly night,
It's
that's
over.
it for their lives. Yeah. So I just did my gardening in pots, the potted plants and that. And
ah.
Yeah.
Is that
so I'm
something
looking forward.
you've done for a long time? Is that something you've done planting and growing things that you've done for a long time, or is that something you picked up recently?
Well, it's always been in us. My father was he works during the week, and the weekend he drags us all, like it or not, come along to the plantation. And my mom was a gardener. She loves her flower plants and that. So that sort of stayed with me. I hated it when I'm forced to do that, but eventually it grew on me, and to see a flower bloom, and it's like, wow, that's beautiful. So I'm getting back into it.
Yeah. Was your father a pastor?
Nope.
No?
He was a plumber. Yeah.
And what led you down this road?
Nice question. Let's see, I had a sister who went to Malua with her husband, and my big brother went to Malua as well. And I never wanted to go to Malua. And then one fine morning, because growing up is like Malua was the thing, and our pastor then, the Reverend Elder Poasateo, late, he was always encouraging the young people of the village to consider Malua in their profession. So that sort of lingered in my mind. So, but many, many years after he retired, and pastor came to our house and talking to our parents, and I was just sitting there listening. I was more involved with the charismatic movements than that. Well, I kind of liked what he said, and before I knew it, I asked him when is the next entrance exam for Malua, and that was the beginning of my journey.
Wow.
And my
it.
mom was so elated, and she said, "Praise the Lord, He saved us all today." I said, man, I lead the Samoan service for Peace Chapel, and I know I've been saved a long time ago. But that was way back. That was 1982. So
1982, you decided to switch over.
So it seems like leadership has been a piece in your life. You became a Matai at a very young age. Talk about that as where you're transitioning. You're in being a young man is hard enough as it is. There's all kinds of things going on in just a young man's life in general, and then being carrying the title of a Matai at such a young age. Kind of walk through that part of your life where you get that title and you have all the responsibility of that.
Yeah. Growing up, my father was a high chief already. He was a sao, and I was always that young kid because I'm the youngest of 8. And I was always the one that eats last, and the one who sits there with a teapot with a pot of cocoa while my dad and other Matais discuss things of the culture and proverbs and where this proverb came from. He had a lot of visitors coming to our house. And I'm the one who sits there with the teapot, being the littlest guy, fill their cocoa cups and after they talk. And so, in 1977, my mom took me to Savai'i and she said, "Here, come take my bag." I had no idea. She said, "Yeah, we're going to have title bestowments over there, and I want you to come with me, take my bag." Lo and behold, she intended for me to have the title. So 1977, at the age of 17, I became a Matai.
Wow.
And it wasn't just a small title, it was the title Monanu, the one that Ono has now at the village of Fongapoa. So Monanu and Taulapapa are the two sa'os of Fongapoa. And it almost feels weird to be asked to sit in the tala of the house from being back there with a teapot, from being the last one to eat to being the first to be served. It was so weird. Yeah, but that is in Savai'i. So when we go to Samoa, to Polu, to a pier where we lived at Vayusu, so my father's family there, acknowledged me, and they sent me to do the CEs, and they sent me since I was young, and that's when I experienced a lot of Matai things, and I gained a lot of confidence in doing that, and then becoming a pastor, and of course sitting in the highest seat when people gather in the church environment, that wasn't strange anymore. I was introduced to that at age 17. So when I went to Stanford, it wasn't all that intimidating. It was just fun.
Yeah. Okay, I get that now.
We would go to some fa'aleava and we need something. I'm the one doing the talking, and I'm with a 60-year-old or 60-year-old member of a family. That member would get up and do bring stuff when the 17-year-old kid sits there and and tells him what to do. It feels so weird,
right.
But the transition from the back to the ultimate seat is sort of overwhelming in the beginning, but after a while, it becomes very normal.
Yeah. I also love that you taught us where people sit in the fale. I know like a lot of the people in the class, we thought the fale was just the fale. And then to find out, the sa'o sits here, the faife'ao sits here, the orators sit here, it was very, very interesting. I really enjoyed your class, Sama. I learned so much. One of the questions that I know we went over before is that you had a Matai title and then you became a faife'ao. Which one outweighs the other, or does it? And do you have to give up? I know I already know the answer, but I know people that are watching don't
know. Does one overweigh the other, or
yes.
Is that the question?
Well, I know. So if you're a Matai and you become a faife'ao, you have to. Can you keep both titles?
Yeah. With the efakasa, I'm not sure about the efaka'asa. With the efakasa, we were encouraged to deregister. Deregister our Matai titles. Until recently, it became part of entering the college. You have to show that you have deregistered. But before, we were just encouraged to deregister. But some just hold on and never use it. You know, they would not use the titles anymore, but they'll become Faika. And but the Faika part is, to me, is more challenging and yet more rewarding. It's more rewarding. Yeah, well, being a Matai, yes, but you know, it's the same thing over and over and over and over. But being a Faika was like the story changes in every turn and every chapter seems different. Although it seems to be the same thing over and over, and yet the content seems to change every day. So that makes it exciting for me.
Pastor, what do you think in today's day and age with COVID-19, really, you know, unknown, uncharted waters in terms of safety procedures? There's bad information out there. There's good information out there. I mean, sorting through all that, everybody's looking for leadership in some ways. What is your opinion on the role of the church with not only the congregation, but I guess just in the community in terms of leadership and keeping people safe with COVID-19, if possible?
Well, I think you know, it's already there. The advice is there to stay away, keep the distance, and have masks, wear masks when necessary. And it's unfortunate that the churches are affected a lot in this. As, we like to hug each other and sit next to each other and bump each other and criticize the sermon sometimes. But, yeah, the pandemic, we've been through this. When I say we've been through this in 1916 in Samoa, Western Samoa, the New Zealand administration allowed a ship that had influenza to port, and the influenza spread across Samoa, and with the people who had no immunities at all, and it killed 20% of the population. And trucks had to go across, you know, run along the roads, and the people would just place their dead by the road, and they'll pick them up, and they would have mass graves. There's a Samoan choir called the Tiamaa from Toamua. So that's one of the mass graves. It's called the Tiamaa because they pile stones on top of it. It's one of the mass graves. So when it comes to the pandemic here, me sitting here and thinking back in 1916, how people went to sleep and never woke up again. And I'm trying to look at that and look at this and said, so where's the comparison? You know, here, I think, you know, it doesn't look that bad. Personally, it doesn't look that bad. But, you know, to lose one's life because of one person's carelessness, that's one person too much. Mm-hmm. So it's good to be safe and to make sure that everyone around us is safe and not to be careless. Because if I be the cause of someone getting it and then dies or ends up, you know, having really bad condition, then not good. One person is too much.
Yeah, I agree. Ty, we have a question from Chicago, Mr. Ty Fa'aleava. He's wondering if there's going to be an orator class coming soon.
Yeah, I think I'll charge $1,000 per student for that one, Ty.
No freebies for you, Chicago.
Especially out-of-state students.
Right.
Out-of-state tuition.
Yes, out-of-state students. Out-of-state students.
Understated. And
How
that's
was your trip?
simply.
How was your trip to Chicago?
Oh, it was good. We had been so busy that week, moving, and we haven't had good sleep. We were busy. We were tired. So when we got to Chicago, we just fell asleep. And Illinois, and my dear son and friend were planning all these things for us, but we woke up in the evening and went to bed soon as it was night.
Oh, wow. And the
So
time
yeah,
difference too.
yeah, time difference. On Saturday we happened to heave up some strength and took the river tour in Chicago. It was beautiful. We
Very
really
nice.
enjoyed that. Really enjoyed Chicago, and Illinois. Nice to be around white people. It was so white. It
Not
was
too many
fun. It was
Pacific
fun.
Islanders here, huh?
Uh, well, 4 Pacific Islanders is enough for one state.
That's all they can handle. That's all they can handle.
They can't figure out why 4 people in a car would order enough hamburger to feed a
Oh, that's awesome.
village.
So your classes you think may start up in July or August? More August maybe?
So it's more August right now, but I'll let you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, because maybe mid-July we'll be able to settle down, but then we'll still have to get it. Yeah, we'll
Yeah.
adjust and all that,
Right.
and get
Yeah,
the
it's
curriculum going. I've beginning to start on the curriculum. It's good we can break up in rooms
right.
so we can put the people, the certain levels together. And I'm hoping that through that we're able to have the orator class. I'm so used to saying orator, but I've heard a lot of orator lately. And even in Stanford, they call it orator. So I said, oh,
Orator.
well, potato, potato. So I've said orator a lot, and then the professor, the students say, oh, so when the orator does that, I say, oh, potato, potato, potato. But anyway, so I'm hoping to be able to do that. I'm already looking at saying like, how are you, or am I on in the beginners level, the
Mhm.
intermediate level, and then the Tula Fale level. So we
Oh,
can,
nice.
and then break them up in groups and practice that according to the level. So yeah, because the beginners is well, you have the right to speak your language. You can speak the Arta language.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I know one guy who's really advanced in this thing. He's heading out there far. That makes me proud to be his teacher too.
That's awesome. That's
So
awesome.
my
Mr. Johnson.
listener, so listeners may not know this, so I'm going to share the story. My father passed away on December 8th of last year, and it was a special character. He didn't ever want to die. He wanted to live forever. I mean, he wanted to do suspended animation. He wanted to figure out if he could hook his brain up to electrodes and keep his being alive. Like, he was never okay with that. It might never end. And so getting an idea of, like, do you want to be buried? Do you want to be cremated? Do you want to, what do you want to do? And the only time that he ever would talk about being gone was he knew that I was trying to learn my language, and I'd been in 2 of Tomas' classes, and he said, and this is random because we weren't talking about what what he wanted to do with his body after he passed, and he just randomly said, "Hey, you know what? Whenever I go, when the time is right, maybe you can say some words in your tongue, in your native language, in your that what you're trying to learn." And Tama has been so open and so supportive. I'm in Bible study every morning with my family now, largely in part to Tama's teachings. I'm becoming closer to God. I'm becoming closer to my family, and I'm learning the language. And there's times where I will say a prayer, and my auntie will say, "Wow, that's almost like, where did you get those words?" Well, they're from Tama. I have a cheat sheet, and so I wanted words to say at my father's funeral, and Tama gave me the words to fulfill that from my father, who said, when the time is right. And the time was right at his funeral. And I said some beautiful Samoan words that you gave me. So I'm always eternally grateful for you, not just because of helping me learn the language, but for being there and helping me through a time when my father had passed. So thank you.
Welcome.
He did such a great job. He did such a great job.
Worth it. It makes it all worth it. This is why I do what I do.
We appreciate you.
We appreciate you. And I hit all the vowels, so I'm very happy. All the time I hit all the vowels, I go, Tama told me to hit all the vowels, so that's what I do.
I know. I'm so tired of hearing my last name being pronounced Fa'aleava.
Oh my gosh.
Fa'aleava. No, please pronounce all the vowels.
I'll do that in our Bible study class when people will blur over a vowel. I won't, I don't say anything out loud, but I'm like, wait, there was another E in there. So like if there's two E's, you pronounce two E's. If there's a, however they are, they're each kings. They each need to be pronounced.
Yes, that helped me so much. Just real quick with the education it seems to be like huge in your family. Was that just individually, like your brother, your sisters? Has that been handed down, or is it just that you need to get your education because of course your son is now a doctor, and Ono's in school, and just everybody, I mean, and your family has that been something that your dad or your parents have pushed down to you, or have you guys just you just know that it's the road?
Very interesting question. Never really thought of it, but it's been emphasized when we were young by our parents that education was important. So we knew that because whenever we had a school need, they would go whatever length they have to go to find that need. And I've often heard my mother saying, if you find what your child needs for school, he will like and love to go to school. If you don't find it, he won't want to go to school. Like a school project or something the teacher said that we have to bring in the next day. And she would go to all lengths to find that. And there were people of very small means. But we sort of saw that, and then the Malua Theological College from my sister and her husband, and then my brother, and anyone on a scholarship to Fiji and all that, became a teacher at Malua. And then Dr. Tautalaaso Fa'aleava went to New Zealand, and he returned to Samoa, and he said, you know what? I'm going to go to America, and I'm going to learn everything that the classroom can teach And when he came, he did that, and that sort of pushed the level to a different. It pushed the education view to a different height, and it just became a family thing. Like the road is already paved. Let's move towards that road, and it's easier to go when there's someone has traveled it before, and it makes it even more possible to do it. Yeah, but we're grateful. We thank God for blessing the family with that desire. We've just had some bachelors that graduated last year.
Very nice.
Last week or 2 weeks ago. So.
Yeah, and Tina is also in education too, right?
Teaching and doing her master's. Yeah.
Yes,
She's
that's
becoming
awesome.
smart. She's becoming smarter than me.
Oh my. We got that on recording, Tina.
She can't hear. That's why I had my AirPods on.
So she can't hear. That's awesome. Is there anything you would like for us to get out before our hour is up? And is there anything that we missed, or the classes will be back on Zoom? I know somebody's asking if it's going to be available in webinar, and will we continue in the Zoom, doing Zoom for the classes?
Yes, we'll continue to be on Zoom. I know that some people's phones aren't compatible with Zoom.
Yeah.
But it's the best platform so far that I have found. Skype, maybe, but Zoom so far is the best that I know. Yeah. And I'm going to learn how to take notes on Zoom. I noticed that my students use the Excel, so I'm going to learn how to, because it's really nice. You can go back and delete things.
Yeah.
The way I'm doing it now, I make a mistake, I can't go back. It's not like Word. Have I forgotten, or is there anything that? No, I'm just so grateful. I'm grateful for what God has done and has blessed us with. And every day He's great. And I know if we just take a moment from our busy lives and just take a moment and think of Him. Last Sunday, I came up with something that I never thought of before. It's like darkness is natural. Light is the supernatural. So it's God's supernatural. So every time you flick a switch or the sun rises, always remember that God has created His supernatural to push out the natural darkness.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Tama, for your time. We so appreciate everything that you've taught us, and that the examples that you've shown us through your work. And we're so grateful to have been in your class. We're so grateful to have met you, and to be part of your family now.
Yeah. You know what I do to, when I have family members? Yeah, I give them, what do we call it? We call it icy notes, right? Yeah, icy notes. Icy notes is we ask them for favors. So now you declare to the world that we're family.
He was laying in wait with that one. He had that one ready.
I
know. Anyway, it's been really great meeting you and having you in my life. It's a blessing to meet great people. And I know that every time God introduces a people, it's to help each other, and also to it's a blessing to really embrace whoever God puts in your path. And when God removes a person from your path, it's
Mhm.
straining to try and drag that person back. Let it
Yes.
go.
Yeah.
Maybe in the few years ahead, God might just say, okay, it's time that person comes back because there's another level that we want to move you into. So that's how I guide my life, as to know when it's done and
Yeah.
to know when to go on. So that's an awesome thing. But you too, thank you for the service you're doing for our people. Thank you for being a blessing in my life, and thank you for making my Samoan class worth it.
Oh, thank you,
You're
Thank
Tama.
you, Tamar.
great, and
For
some of
those
the
of you,
other students as well.
for the people that are online asking to how do they enroll, or if you just go to the Facebook page, and the Malamalama page is where Tama updates all the information. So go look for that page and request to be friends. Tama, thank you so much for your time.
Yeah.
We appreciate it and we love you. Thank you. Thank you for this evening.
Thank you,
Thank
Tamar.
you.
Make
Have
my
a
life
good
better. Thank
evening.
you.
God bless Samoa too.
Yes,
The
yes.
people. Right.
Tô fácil, way for it.
Pastor Fa'aleava, Manuela Siafi.